This massive block of concrete and steel that we're standing on is Philpott Dam. Philpott Dam was constructed between 1948 and 1951 across the Smith River by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Now, when you hear the term Philpott today, everybody thinks about all of the recreational opportunities we provide here at the project. But to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers designers, when they prepared the plans to construct Philpott Dam, recreation was the furthest thing from their mind. Their total emphasis was placed on flood control. Now, moving over to the upstream side of the dam, let's learn a little bit about floods. Also, look at these steep mountains and all of these hills in the background. And keep in mind that before the dam was built, Smith River used to flow down through this area where the lake is today. Now, this land is just like a sponge. It soaks up water when it rains. If it rains too much, it saturates the land and continues to rain, or if it rains so hard that the land just can't soak it up that fast, then we get runoff. Now, this runoff would come down these hills, down these steep mountains, and accumulate in Smith River. And it would cause the river water level to rise. And if it rose enough, it would overflow its banks and create a flood. Now let's look at the downstream side, move over there. Take a look at this peaceful meandering Smith River of today and the Smith River Valley below. This river flows through several communities downstream. And we talked about floods forming. Over 200 floods occurred in one 50-year period in these downstream communities. Just devastating. Caused a lot of damage to the factories, to the mills, to livestock, crops, everything that was down in that area. But in 1937, the granddaddy of all floods occurred. In the flood of 1937, there was over 38,000 cubic feet per second of water came roaring down this river like a freight train. Nothing could stop it. It destroyed everything in its path. Another way to look at it, there's over 1,100 tons of water in that flood per second coming down the river. It just devastated everything. It left over 3,600 people without jobs and over 1,500 people without homes. And people started asking questions. Well, isn't there anything we can do to stop these floods or control them? Well, this particular flood caught the eye of Congress, and they asked the same question, but they asked it to the right people. They asked the United States Army Corps of Engineers to conduct a study along the Smith River Valley to determine if there was anything at all that could be done to control these floods. Well, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers did their study. They did make a recommendation to Congress, and Congress accepted this recommendation. And in 1944, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed into law the Flood Control Act of 1944, which authorized the construction of Philpott Dam across the Smith River. Now today, if floods occur up on the upper end of the lake, then these floodwaters flow into the lake and are safely contained by Philpott Dam. They're held back. It acts as a big blocking feature to prevent the floodwaters from going downstream. Now, as you leave here today, I would like for you to do something for me. As you travel back to Martinsville in your van, I'd like for you to take a look out the window as you travel along this peaceful, meandering river. But recall how it could be transformed into such a raging monster in the past. But most importantly, I want you to think about the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Philpott Dam and how they tamed that monster so that no one would ever have to come back again to a jobless community, devastated land and crops, destroyed mills and factories, and a house full of mud and snakes. Or worse yet, no house at all.